long minute. Okay.
Good to go.
7:30. When you're ready.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Sunbury City Council meeting. It is February 16th at 7:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Joe St. John.
Here.
Damon Capel.
Here.
Tim Goes.
Here.
Marie Neff.
Here.
John Grumney.
Here.
David Martin.
Here.
Cindy Cooper. Here. 7 present.
All right, we do have a public hearing this evening, and I'm going to pass it to our law director, Mr. David Green, to lay out the topics and pass it over to our court recorder to determine if we have anybody to swear in this evening.
Let the record reflect this is a public hearing scheduled for 7:30 p.m. February 16th regarding some revisions to our zoning code. It was advertised for this evening. Also let the record reflect that council has convened its meeting in the public hearing and there are no visitors present in the chambers today. So that being said, I don't think there's anybody to be sworn in. So at that point, we can just let the record reflect those things. The proof of publication as well as the proposed zoning code amendments will be retained at the village offices for anybody to inspect them. I believe the proposed revisions will be posted online if they're not already for anybody that wants to inspect them, and you'll have that an ordinance to approve them for a first reading tonight on your agenda. But that being said, I think we can conclude the public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to conclude the public hearing and close it.
Second.
We have a second by Damon Capel. Discussion. Roll call.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
Tim Goes.
Yes.
Marie Neff.
Yes.
John Grumney.
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
7 days.
You're adjourned. Thank you very much. The easiest area that.
I think Sarah calls me because I didn't bring it.
Oh, you can come back in.
But the elevator ride up was longer than the public hearing, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Right. Thank you
Well,
again.
thanks for being here this
Have a
evening.
great evening. We'll get the chairs and stuff out of your way. All right, we did have a meeting on February 2nd, 2022. I believe we were all in attendance, if I'm not mistaken. Would anyone like to make a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
We got a motion by Mrs. Cindy Cooper. Second. Second by Councilman Neff. Discussion?
Only thing, there are a couple references to Cindy Ernst. And Cindy Ernst's first name is spelled C-I-N-D-Y, not C-I-N-D-I.
Okay, we'll get that fixed.
Let the record reflect Mr. Martin's alterations to the minutes, and thank you very much for correcting that. We would have not known who they were mentioning.
Right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No such thing as too many Cindy's.
That's true. Right. I think we've got a motion and a second. And we're looking for a roll call. Roll call.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
Marie Neff.
Yes.
David Martin.
Yes.
John Grumney.
Yes.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Tim Goes.
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
7 days.
All right, we're on to the visitors section. Let the record reflect we had 0 visitors here this evening. Committee reports. I'd like to start with Mr. Murray Neff.
Nothing.
Okay, good deal.
I don't have a committee report tonight.
All right. This is Cindy Cooper.
Nothing tonight.
All right. Mr. Damon Capel.
Nothing here either.
All right. Councilman Grumney.
To be consistent, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Goetz.
Hate to be inconsistent. I've got a couple here. Earlier this evening, we had the monthly finance meeting. We went over the monthly and year-to-date financials. For the most part, looks like everything was on track. No glaring issues there. Mr. Steve Piles gave us an update on the impact fees and where we are there with getting some legislation together, perhaps in 30 days or so.
And demo grant update. We're pursuing roughly $75,000 with 5,000 of that for asbestos abatement. That could be announced as soon as this week or next on that. And lastly, Mr. Mayor gave us an update on the potential road improvements on Golf Course Road. I think that's it for that committee meeting. And then I have a quick update, I should say, from the fire board meeting last week, February the 10th. Pretty brief. We talked about the January financials, year-to-date financials. Again, everything's on course there as expected. And then we had the chief's report, including the run report. And I have it here. If anyone wants to see that afterwards, we can take a look at that. Actually, I think I'll just go ahead and pass that down the table if you guys want to take a look at that. That's all I have.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Mr. Gose. And this wasn't a committee report, but I'm going to weave it in here really quick, just a couple of developments. Steve, I know you mentioned this in your administrator report, just a great job that our services team did on snow removal. They were up against all odds, how it was rain virtually all day, unable to lay salt, the sleet. We had to call it a night. I think it was Thursday around 8 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. And that's actually when ODOT and the county, I believe, pulled the plug too. We just weren't making progress. And then went to a level 3, came back the next morning early, 4 a.m., had plows out all day, did an excellent job. I just want to say thank you very much. Since that point, Brad, Steve, myself have had a chance to talk about number one, staffing, and number two, some equipment that is probably something that we haven't looked at before. It's kind of a hybrid between what I would call a tractor and a plow. It's like a multi-type use and function type vehicle where you can add different attachments, including snow blowers. It'd be good for trails, sidewalks, cul-de-sacs, things where you need to have a little bit more flexibility, better turn radius. We also talked about a small front end loader that we may need to look at, but all good things. Brad's always got an eye towards the future and learning from how events have gone in the past. So really excited to continue those discussions, and I think he's actively seeking out quotes for that. Not necessarily a committee update, but in the services wheelhouse.
Can I add something to that too?
Yes, sir.
The snow plowing, Steve, I'd like the folks to know that did that. Again, I'd also echo they did a great job. My mom lives in Westerville in development, and I live in Sunbury Meadows. My street had already been plowed 2, maybe 3 times, and when I talked to her, it had yet to be plowed. So I think they did a great job, and it's just nice to know that I've got my driveway to worry about, and that's it. So, so thank you to you and the folks.
And in the messaging that went out, I'll just thank several people for this. I mean, number one, the city taking the lead on communicating along with the police messaging around not parking on the streets. And then the HOAs blasted it. I think some of the different Facebook groups blasted it out. It was widespread, and Brad was texting me, not while driving, but Thursday, and he's like, it's dramatic. I mean, and the police said the same thing. It's
Social
dramatic.
media effort, I think, it really
Yeah.
helps.
And we had some cars, and some of the cars, I mean, may still be sitting there, but we've also addressed some of those issues as well. You can tell that they've been sitting there for more than 48 hours, if you've got snow plowed up around them. So we've got an ordinance to address those things. So
Do you know if anything along the ordinance lines have been done, towing wise? Anybody get to?
I don't know if we had to tow anybody, but I do know somebody in the gardens that had an officer. I don't know if you know what happened. There was a boat on the street. It's in your neighborhood, but not your street. The first
Arbor?
one, Arbor. Yeah. There was a boat there that
On a
got
trailer,
plowed in.
on a trailer in the road.
Yeah, and actually, the folks that talked to me about it were school bus drivers. They're like, listen, it was excellent, except for we already have like an issue with that street anyways, kind of the way that turns and it's blind, and having this boat and then 3 feet of snow on the outside of it, we can't get around. And so I called the chief. We sent some folks over there, and I think the boat was moved within a day. So no towing events that I'm aware But great job to Brad and team and Steve.
Very good.
We do appreciate the community doing their part and keeping the streets open. So, you know, they're not doing this, they're doing this. And it's much more productive.
I agree. Good deal. All right, we don't have a police report tonight. We do have an officer presence in the audience here with us. It's Officer Bowman, one of our finest, if not the finest. You're welcome.
He says that every week.
I did talk to the chief. One thing we're gonna work to do is get the police report into pretty standard format. Dave Parkinson, if you can do earmuffs for a second. I kind of like the way that the engineer's report is in terms of the rolling book of work and having the visualizations, and then also as work is completed, it falls off. So we talked about incorporating that for the police. They have a lot of things on the mid and long-term horizon that they're working on. And I want to make sure they're getting ahead of you guys. So it's not, hey, we need a police cruiser, you know, approved at our next meeting. Is that fair?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. All right, administrator report, Steve Piles.
The report was posted. I do want to mention today we had 3 interviews, second interviews for the service department. Tomorrow I'll be tendering 2 offers, which will bring us back to full, or at least will bring us back to where we were a
3
month
months
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if that's probably fair to call it full, but it's at least replacing what we've lost.
It's below our approved head count and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just filling losses that we've
Yeah, and we've got another really good candidate that's got some strong background, and they're considering us, we're considering them type of situation in terms of the overall package we can offer.
I agree.
So those 2 contingent offers will go out tomorrow, and then we'll get this 3rd person hopefully. Other than that, I guess I will entertain questions so that you can keep on a good pace today. And I'll try to integrate graphics into my.
I don't mean, when I say graphics, I don't mean like bar charts and things,
Okay,
but a picture here and then it
Sure.
tells a story.
it does.
Mr. Hennessy, is he still on course for
Yes.
March 1st?
First, yep.
Arrival, okay.
He has announced it. There's been a couple articles over in West Virginia about his departure, and I'll probably be, we trade texts every once in a while, and probably send him a text and say, hey, let's have a phone call over the weekend if you have time, and just.
Good deal. Very good. Looking forward to that. I'm sure you are.
Anything else for Steve? All right. Great work, Steve. Thank you. We're on to the engineer's report. Mr. Parkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I uploaded mine on Friday. It's pretty much the same report I've been doing for the last couple of months. We're at that slow period of time. I do go through and update each of the items to the extent that there needs to be an update. The only 2 projects we're working on at the current time actively for the city is the Fallen Heroes Trails. We're wrapping up the design for 3 and 4. We'll be back to council in March for permission to advertise for bids. We will upload the drawings when they're ready to the OneDrive. We'll forward a set to Mr. Piles as well for his review and approvals. And so we're close to getting that on the street. The other thing is we've been asked to assist the city with putting together what's called a pre-application. It's kind of an abbreviated 30,000 foot level at a project for the Department of Public Services emergency management funds through the Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program. We applied for and are making our way through round 1 for Walnut Street repairs. That has not been officially announced yet as whether we've won or not. They had extra money. I don't know how you have extra money, but they had extra money, so they had around 2. And so we're going to submit a request to do a study of Prairie Run. This is for the purposes of identifying mitigation efforts, remediations that we can make, stream corridor restoration perhaps for Prairie Run to maybe attenuate or mitigate some of the flooding that we've been seeing through the city.
Just real quick, just for those folks who are not familiar with Prairie Run, this would be, from where our sewer plant is, north along Prairie Run. This is the same Prairie Run that runs along the Ohio Fallen Heroes Memorial behind the Sunbury Church and our cemetery up behind Tim's neighborhood in Sunbury Estate. So that bobs and weaves kind of in and out of the city limits. There's different property owners. It's not as straightforward as it probably should be or could be, but it's we need to take the first steps, and I appreciate Mr. Parkinson calling this potential grant opportunity out to us.
And I appreciate that you say to take a first step, because there's a lot of work to do to get to the end on this, and this is just the first step. And if we can get some some funding assistance, the way it's currently set up, we'll get 87.5% of the cost of the project paid for by others. So that's a good deal when you can get a 1-to-8 or something, 1-to-7 ratio. So
I hit on the Walnut Creek as well. Just again, if you can visualize back behind the old skating rink, there's a section of road that is, I want to say it's abandoned, but it's closed due to the road somewhat subsiding. It's really tricky back there in terms of like Trenton Township, Berkshire Township, Sunbury. We put in for is it a FEMA grant? It's not the right.
it's sort of through FEMA. Yeah, it's federal emergency management funds. I don't know if it actually comes out of FEMA, but it's close enough.
Okay, and we've always, I mean, we felt like it's a candidate for, road subsidence, literally we can't gain access. If you think public service, you're not going to go out there and do a traffic count and get the numbers that would really warrant a grant today, but that's because the road's been closed for so long. Nobody's going to go back there to get anywhere. But you think emergency type situations. And the reason I brought up Trenton, Berkshire, and Sunbury is from an emergency management standpoint. You think sheriffs, Sunbury police, BST&G, if they need to get to and fro back there, they can't do it directly or in the closest point to A and B. We're really encouraged by making it this far into the process. It's not a done deal, but we feel pretty good. We've made it to what I would say is near final approval. Is that fair?
That's fair. And I would say, not to carry it out too much further, we sort of got lucky. These monies that we're applying for are earmarked for natural disasters, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, things of that nature. Well, with COVID, the federal government declared the entire country, as I understand, a natural disaster area, which makes these funds available to us where they would not have otherwise been available to us for this purpose. So we're, I guess I'll say, well, again, we're a little lucky in the circumstances and the timing of this. And so keep fingers crossed. So with that, I'd like to offer to try to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Mr. Parkinson? Great update, Mr. Parkinson. Thank you very much. All right, we're on to resolutions. We have no third readings. We do have a second reading. This is resolution 2022.01, resolution designating First Commonwealth as public depository for the city of Sunbury, declaring an emergency. Ready to move? All right, we've had one reading on this. So I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
We got a second by Tim Gross. Is there any discussion on the suspension? Councilman Neff? Okay, sorry to do. Roll call.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Ghost,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Marie Neff,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right. Got a motion on the emergency?
Second.
Second by Tim Ghost. Discussion? Roll call?
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
John Garmney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper.
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, I'd like to make a motion on resolution 2022.01.
I'll second.
We got a second by Tim Goes. And just to clarify what we're approving here, it's our banking relationship.
Yes,
That's all we're doing. We're renewing it.
we're renewing
It's,
it.
it's bigger, better, and awesome.
We go out for a request for proposals.
Yeah.
This is what came back. We have everything set up with them. It's just, we have to do it every 5 years.
Great, thank you. Roll call?
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
John Garmney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, we're on to first readings and there are none. We're now on to ordinances, third reading, ordinance number 2021.49. I'd like to make a motion to extend the tabling of this particular ordinance by 2 months.
I'll second that.
We got a second by Mr. Martin. I'll just add really quickly, there's been a lot of discussion with the developer, ODOT, county, our engineers, and the main point, and we are down to the last point, is access onto future Sunbury Parkway. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but the developer would like a certain type of access. Generally, ODOT would not like, a certain type of access. And when we say a certain type of access, that would be like you mentioned earlier, Mr. Grumney, turning left out of Sunbury Meadows onto Route 3. That was a 2-lane road at the time, 3-lane. This is 6 lanes. And ODOT wants it to be continuous flow from north to south on Sunbury Parkway. And the developer wants north-south access out of their development. And so where we are is at a sticking point. Sunbury wants the best of all of the situation, and that is we want the development to succeed. We want ODOT to accomplish its goals. We want the county to support the interim solutions on 3Bs and a K and Africa Road. And for the most part, we're all working well together, but there's one point, and there's going to be some give, or the development won't happen. That's the bottom line. And I will keep you abreast on information as it comes out.
And I would like to ask guidance from our legal guy. Can we just vote to extend the tabling, or do we have to call it off the table and then put it back on the table?
No, you can just vote to extend it. It's in your rules and it's written that way, so I think you're okay.
All right.
That's the maximum allowable extension
It
date.
doesn't say it's your rules. Again, as we've talked about before, they're your rules, you make them, they're a guide to you, and in this case, it specifically says it won't stay on the table more than 4 months unless you vote to extend it.
Okay.
The thought is you just don't want to put something on the table and leave it on there
And leave it
indefinitely.
there for
But this is,
years, right?
it's an active, viable project. It's being worked on. A lot of work in the last 4 months to get to a final point that the mayor just
Well,
mentioned.
I knew there was something regarding tabling, and I just wanted to make sure we were doing it within the right realm. So
We're okay on this one.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
John Garmney,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, we're on to the second reading ordinance number 2022.04, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a lease of approximately 9 acres of real estate located at Freedom Park for green farming purposes pursuant to the Sunbury Charter, declaring an emergency. And I assume we're ready to move forward with this. This is pretty straightforward. We've done this for all the years I've ever been on council. We went through a notification process where folks could bid on it, I guess is the way
Yes.
I would say, for the rights to farm. We're ready to close the deal.
And we're getting triple the income we usually get. So
Excellent.
It was a really good bidding situation.
All right.
Motion to suspend the rules.
A motion by David Martin to suspend,
Second.
second by Mrs. Cindy Cooper. Discussion? Roll call.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
John Garmney,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
7 yeas.
Motion on the emergency.
A motion on the emergency by Mr. David Martin,
Second.
second by Mrs. Cindy Cooper. Discussion? Roll call.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
7 yeas.
Motion on ordinance 2022.04.
We have a motion on the ordinance. It's 2022.04 by Mr. David Martin,
Second.
second by Ms. Cindy Cooper. Discussion? Roll call.
David Martin,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, motion passes. We are on to first reading. Ordinance number 2022.09, an ordinance accepting a petition for annexation of territory consisting of 2.903 plus or minus acres located in Berkshire Township, Delaware County, owned by Romanelli and Hughes Building Company, the Inn at Walnut Trail Limited in the state of Ohio, and declaring an emergency. I had thought we had already passed this, but I think we passed the that we can support the services to allow, this property to annex into Sunbury.
Absolutely right. Two pieces of legislation on annexation generally, sometimes three, but two for sure. A resolution for services, that's the initial one you pass that says if it does come in that we can service it. And then it goes back to the commissioners for consideration. They approve it, it comes back here, and then you have this ordinance. Sometimes there's also an annexation agreement that's in play. In this case, there's not. This is the 2.903 acres. It's behind the firehouse generally in the Inn at Walnut Trail. It was thought actually to already be in Sunbury. When the developers came forward and were having that subdivision approved, they used it in all their calculations, and then come to find out when we went to plat it, when it was all done and approved, lo and behold, part of it wasn't in the village.
Oh, my.
So we made an arrangement where we would move forward and we would fix it. And this is to fix it. So this would just be a first reading tonight. I don't think there's any reason to rush, but that's what this is about. So
Mr. Reed, can I ask, so is this for the new development, those homes, those?
Miller's Cove.
Yeah, Miller Cove. Okay, so there's a land that's,
and it's not the actual ground that the homes sit on. It's more of the green space, empty space to the
Okay.
east.
okay,
That's where you get in the state of Ohio. Actually, part of this 2.9 acres is state of Ohio right away.
okay.
But we didn't want to leave an island, so we went ahead and included that in the annexation, which is permitted.
Okay,
So,
okay.
and the Inn at Walnut Trail had again, a small amount of area in there that they purchased from Mr. Romanelli, that also would create an island. So we're just cleaning up the area and getting in what was thought to be.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, is there a desire to pass this evening?
I would just do a first reading, then allow time for comment in case there is any. I doubt there will be, but
Sounds good.
maybe at the next one.
All right. I'm sweating looking at this next ordinance, ordinance number 22.10. That's quite, do I have to read all that?
You gotta read all this.
I remember, were you here when we used to do the,
Yeah,
Dave will remember the note ordinances? Where it talked about all the different purposes that we were renewing the note for, and it had and appurtenances in it 30 times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Glenn would have
Read
to
it.
read that. Anyway, not quite that bad, but this is close. Get a deep breath.
all right. Ordinance number 2022.10, an ordinance approving amendments to the City of Sunbury zoning code, including revisions, including updates to reflect city status, building height calculation, revising certain zoning definitions, removing fee references, revising zoning certificate submittal requirements, adding BZA references, requiring engineering plans and electronic versions with certain submittals, multi-use trail provisions and requirements to rezone to planned district from various multifamily districts, multifamily apartment revisions related to bedroom sizing, building design and parking, C3 conditional use amendments, eliminating certain structure height exemptions, floodplain revisions, open space contiguity and calculation revisions, playing field drainage, tree preservation amendments, certain building materials amendments, roof slope amendments for mechanicals and contractor work hours, and modifying the recommendation of the Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission, also to include amendments related to tree replacement and declaring an emergency.
No one can ever say that we don't have notice in the titles of our ordinances.
That is true.
It talks about what it talks about what's in it.
So does this need action tonight, or can we wait 2 weeks so Joe that has to read it?
I was thinking the same thing, yeah. So these are our zoning code revisions that we've been working on for some time.
Yeah.
There's a lot in here. There is, in the end of that, and you'll see there's an exhibit B to the ordinance. We went through a page by page zoning code review. There were special meetings where this was studied by the Planning and Zoning Commission. As it always is, this is always a work in progress when it comes to our zoning code, because there's always things coming forward that are a little bit unique and a little bit different. It happened again from the time that they passed it at the zoning commission. And we had some tree replacement revisions in here already, but then we found a couple others that we just said, boy, that's too important to let that go by. So the part about modifying this planning and zoning code's recommendation, when the planning and zoning code recommends something to you, it takes just a majority vote to improve it. To modify the recommendation, which you'd be doing, you'd be adding the other tree replacement revisions that were found after they passed it. It takes 5 of 7. So there is that part of it. That's the exhibit B. A lot here. I would have a first reading tonight. Not necessarily so Joe has to read it, but just to allow everybody to further digest it. There were nobody from the public here tonight, but maybe somebody will want to come before the next meeting and voice an opinion. But definitely a first reading tonight. We're looking forward to getting these changes made.
One thing that I think we do need to do, so I talked to Kathy a little bit about this, but as the more I read through this, Exhibit B is explicitly called out both in our packet and in the zoning text here as separate. But the other things, the substantive items that are listed above Exhibit B, we need to be able to, I think council needs to be able to call that out. If we can get a red line version of this or a summary of the actual changes, pages, things like that, whatever is easier. You guys have flipped a coin to figure out if we want a red line or not. I think it'd be a good idea to, there's a lot.
Some red lines.
And that's just on the tree code, from what I saw.
Yeah.
There's other things that are not easily called out here. Like I was summarizing with Murray as a one-off, just talking to him about this. One really practical thing that we did is we pulled out all the fee references and a table of fees. You wouldn't be able to see like how difficult it was, if you didn't have the before version. But let's just say this is the cleanest version you'll ever see.
Another good reason to have a first reading, get your red line so you can, you don't want to read the whole thing. And you'd never be able to tell what the changes were. No way.
Mhm.
Good deal.
Mhm.
All right. We're on to unfinished business. Let's do unfinished and new. And I'd just like to start with the purchase orders that are listed, then we'll go around the board. Is that okay? All right. FYI, only liquor control branch pizza will be signed and returned unless someone has an objection.
That's the liquor control. They're up for renewal and you have the opportunity to have an objection if you wish. If you don't, I'll sign it and send it in.
And they just got their updated liquor stuff. I forget what passed on the ballot. I'm not in that district that voted on it, but they're now able to sell either a certain type of liquor or now they're able to sell on Sundays or something. This is Branch Pizza.
They didn't sell liquor at all before. They got their liquor license and they applied for, I don't know if the Sunday license passed or not. I think it did.
I think it
But
did.
both items were on the ballot in November.
Okay. All right, any objections? Okay. All right, purchase order number 35457. This is SME 5 South Columbus Street cleanup, $24,107.98. Is this all being paid for by the grant?
Yes. And this is just to keep it consistent, just to keep you guys aware of it.
This is, anytime you see 5 South Columbus Street, Dave Martin, I know you know, but it's the Martindale property with the sitting wall that says Sunbury established. So $24,107.98 to be, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Yeah, this is a pass-through cost because you have a grant for all this money. So once you pay it, you submit it for a reimbursement from the granting authority. So it's just pass-through.
Is this a one-time cost or is this
It's not a one-time, there's more. And
Okay.
there's more than a lot.
Yeah.
The grant was for $250,000.
It was a former gas station or near a former gas station. Yeah, I think it was a former gas station. All right. I'd like to make a motion for approval. Second by Mr. Capel. Discussion. Roll call.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
David Martin,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right. Purchase order number 35475, Delaware County Engineer, $14,046.53. This is for salt doubloons. That's for, upping our treasure stash of salt.
Yep, just trying to keep the coffers full, anticipating we might need it tomorrow early in the morning.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by David Martin.
Second.
Second by David Cap. Discussion. Mr. Neff. Roll call.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Damon Capel,
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Joe St. John,
Yes.
Murray Neff,
Yes.
John Grumney,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
7 yeas.
All right, we're on to new and unfinished business. Mr. Ghost.
Did you know, I was just thinking about salt. What is the shelf life for salt when you store that? It
As
can
long
go
as it's
a long
covered, that's
time.
good, yeah.
As
you
long as
keep
you
it
keep it
covered.
dry, you'll be
That's
there.
one time.
I gotta tell a funny story about salt real quick. I saw this, anything you read on the internet's true, but I saw somebody that said, it was pink Himalayan salt they got from Trader Joe's. And it said,
I saw
mined
that.
150,000 years ago or something, like was formed. And then it said expires like last month. Oh, oh, can't make it up.
All right, so no spoilage issue over there in the bin.
No,
All right.
we should be fine.
That's all,
Any new
that's all I
business?
had.
All right, good deal. Mr. Grumney? Mr. Capel?
Nothing here.
Mrs. Cooper?
Just a thank you to the city for their Facebook updates. I feel like this is a slow time of year and the Sunbury Facebook page is really almost once a day posting something. I'm noticing a lot of feedback from residents. They like knowing what's going on there. The survey is up and just anything that they put out and they put out for the meetings and stuff. And it just, I'm seeing, there's no one here, but I'm hearing and I'm seeing like folks really appreciate that. They like knowing what's going on in Sunbury. And if they can't make it to a meeting, they appreciate a quick Facebook update. So just thank you for that.
Is that Olivia's doing?
That's,
She's great.
yep, that's Olivia's thing.
Okay.
And we won a free book from our Trail Town consultant because we reached in one day 86 responses to our survey. So
I heard of a bunch of people that today took it. We just get that?
that was
notification
early
yet?
this morning. So we're probably over 100. We're gonna pass Mount Vernon and leave them in the dust.
Steve, that's the tone I like.
Competitiveness there.
Good deal. All right.
No, but I do appreciate everybody filling out the survey because we want a wide view and we'll get some pretty good data from it, I think, so.
Can I add one thing to what Cindy said? I've met with a couple people that I'll say they're volunteers, stewards of the community. One is Joey Thomas. You may know him. He's his wife's a realtor. They live out in North Star. He does all the Big Walnut promotional videos, like when they did the hype videos for this football team, and he does all the North Star videos and stuff. But he's offered his services for free to Sunbury. I mean, to do marketing, promotional things like that. I mean, I think all he said is, if you want to give me a shout out at Sunbury Sizzle and Sound or something like that, that's good enough.
Does he do drone stuff?
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, he does all the drone stuff. But he's also, I would say, really well connected in social media and podcasts and things like that. I'm getting a little bit off track here. One really practical thing that he said we could incorporate into our Facebook updates is partnering with Myers Inn, the Historical Society, getting kind of a calendar of historical events that have happened over the years and doing, on this day.
Yeah.
He said that that's a really good way to connect with the community. I mean, both with the schools, as an educational thing, but also the folks who were here when those things happened. So maybe a good idea to have Olivia connect with the Historical Society. See if we can come up with some of that information to weave in there. All right. No, you had Ms. Winkler. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Mr. Martin.
I'm good.
All right, Mr. Neff.
Nothing.
Okay, good deal. I had two things. One is an FYI. I'm meeting on Friday with Tracy Davies, the new county administrator. Myriad of topics to discuss, but really looking forward to that. I've heard nothing but great things about Tracy Davies and her being enrolled. So really excited. We're gonna have lunch at Serve. Asked her to come over to our neck of the woods. So, we may be small, but we're stronger than Mount Vernon. And the last thing, this is probably the most serious topic. This got hit on a little bit in Parks last week. And the Civic Association and Brian D'Amico have requested that Sunbury Sizzle and Sound go until 11:30 p.m. First, I'll say this. We don't have to make a decision now. I think what I'd like to get is feedback on where do we go from here. So I spoke to Brian D'Amico. He's the gentleman who coordinates all the music and everything. What he's been aspiring to do is try to do like 2 headliners. Okay, that's the ultimate goal. He wants to be able to have 2 kind of night acts when there's everybody there. And I think he said a 9 to 10 and a 10:30 to 11:30 or something like that. He said every band wants to be the headliner. Sometimes, like if you say, hey, we're going to give you the slot before the end, but it's dark and there's going to be 5,000 people there, they'll come without having to charge additional fees and things like that. So I told him I would bring it to council because when I initially talked to the chief of police, I think we both were, like, you know what, it's been extended in the past 2 years. We're apprehensive to even really engage in this if it's going to engage further or, go further. And I said, the only way that I personally would, consider this seriously is if we had something in a contract with Civic saying the music is going to stop at 11:30. So if there's encores and they need to pass down agreements with their music vendors or whatever, they need to, if they're going to do encores, it needs to start at 11:10 and wrap up music cut off at 11:30. The chief of police was open to that concept. And he said, as long as we know what we're getting into, because when they extend, they have officers there until a certain amount of time and then have to say, and now it's on to 11:30. He would rather, if we're going to do 11:30, say 11:30 so you can staff for it. And I told Brian, we may not have a answer this week. My question for you is, do we need to take this into a smaller group and do any more due diligence, or based on everything I said, are you guys comfortable moving forward or not comfortable moving forward and sending me back with a message that, it's just not going to happen?
It was cut off at 11.
11 was scheduled. 11:30 is where it went to.
But it actually ended up going till midnight because they extended it twice.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretty sure, yeah.
It went till midnight?
I don't know if it went to midnight, but there were, there
It
were
did.
multiple
I was
encores.
working that shift
Yeah.
and they ended up extending it till midnight and it was supposed to be over at 11 o'clock.
That brings up another good point because those are volunteers that are helping.
Right.
So not only do you have the police officers and those staff and our staff, we also have folks that are volunteering their time. So they would probably want to heart out, I would think.
When are they cutting off the alcohol sales? That's really the key safety issue.
Yeah.
It already starts very early. 11 to some people might seem early on a Saturday night.
They
but when it
extended the
starts at-
alcohol till 12:15. It was supposed to be done at 11 and they extended.
To me,
it
that's
till
always
12:15.
been in my conversations with the chief, from a safety perspective. We had a good year this year. It wasn't so good of a year 2 years ago. The incidents were down this year. But you pack a lot of people and it depends a lot on the weather, what it's like, what the crowd's like when they show up. But they start the alcohol sales at,
12 or
it's early.
something. Yeah, noon.
So
Yes.
that extra half an hour, whatever at the end, a lot of places that you go, the event might continue on, but the alcohol sales are cut off at halftime or at third quarter or whatever, at a date certain, and then at
Right.
least that part of it stops. Might want to think about that component of it and talk to the chief specifically, but those are my discussions with him as he just gets concerned. The later it goes, that element can exponentially ratchet up.
So two different topics, but in the same thread. We've got alcohol sales cut off and music cut off. Is the focus I have right now is, let's say, music. If we say cannot go beyond 11:30, so our agreement with Civic and Civic's agreement with the musicians or whoever it is through Brian, it doesn't go past 11:30. Are we okay with that not being able to extend? And then what recourse do we have if they do go beyond the 11:30? Pull the plug?
Right.
I guess I'd want more information as to why the extension's really needed. If it's to have two bands, two headliners.
Yeah.
Now, why can't the one start at 7:30? Why do they have to wait until 8 to start the first headliner? Is that really necessary?
And I'm okay bringing that back.
I mean, if we're gonna, entertain an extension, I want Franco would like a stronger argument.
Okay.
I don't think it's there yet. Maybe Brian can shed some more light on that.
Sounds good. All right. Anything else? Murray?
I mean, it's been extended to midnight last year, you said?
Yeah.
And then 11:30 nights years before. Was there any pushback from that? The community?
The year, 2 years before that, they extended it, but only because they had a rainstorm that stopped it for a while. And so they got permission from the police to extend it for a little while. But prior to that, they didn't extend it. They cut it off when it was supposed to be cut off. This was a new thing.
And I should say, there were measures taken this year to try to counteract some of the issues in prior years that were independent of the ending time. So I don't want to say that that's the end all be all. That's constantly evolving. How do we deal with those issues?
Including a greater, I thought there was a much greater show of force
Correct.
with the number of,
We had Mara County officers here. We got an intergovernmental worked out with them fairly quickly to be able to do that. So to that point, it's gone beyond 11, 2 out of the past 3 years.
One other question, when's the shuttle quit running?
Midnight,
So it quits
the
running at
last
midnight?
shuttle leaves the square at midnight. That's in their contract.
was there any problem, volunteers for
We
for
pay
doing
for the
that?
shuttle. The shuttle is a purchased benefit. So there's no,
But the folks like,
Contract.
the volunteers though are not being paid. The ones pouring the beer, taking the tickets, whatever.
And probably the volunteers is a good point. The volunteers are more a civic association issue. They're the ones that have to answer to their own volunteers. The safety side of it just says probably the alcohol needs to be cut off at a certain time regardless of when the entertainment stops. And then to the point, safety also, need to make sure these people can make it out through and have transportation available to them. Probably a half hour does that. But you don't want it to go until midnight and having the last bus already left.
Right.
I wonder maybe if we invite Brian to the next meeting in a couple weeks as a visitor.
Let's have Cindy with a Y. Let's have Teresa. Let's
I
have
talked to Teresa.
Kathy.
Let's have Kathy.
I talked to Teresa and I asked her to try to get the same guys that were at the halftime for the Super Bowl. She said she'd do the best she can. So who knows?
Teresa's in Florida. She won't make it, but Cindy could.
Right. Sounds good. That's all I have. Anybody else have anything? All right, we're good.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by David Martin to adjourn, Second by Damon Capel. Discussion? Roll call?
David Martin,
Yes.
Damon Capel.
Yes.
Tim Goes,
Yes.
Joe St. John.
Yes.
Murray Neff.
Yes.
John Gumby,
Yes.
Cindy Cooper,
Yes.
7-8.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Cindy. It wasn't
Great.
dark. It's a Super Bowl and they got some pretty big names there.
We're gonna get